Hi, this is Charlene Mosier from Sound Sewing Silverdale, Washington and PFAFF Creative Sewing Center, Lacey, Washington. Welcome to your How to Use My Passport 3.0 class. So this is just a basic getting started class, and we're going to go over how to thread it, wind a bobbin, install your bobbin, select your stitches, what our accessories are, and how to alter your stitches and stuff like that. And we will do some things like a blind hem, a buttonhole, and that kind of stuff. So to get started here, I'm going to take you over and go over the accessories that actually came with it. Alright, so we have your user manual that came with the machine, and then we also have, they usually put in a packet of needles. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 10, but you have a packet of needles in there by Inspira, 2 large spool caps, a felt, a small cap, accessory of bobbins, an extra spool pin for using twin needle, a screwdriver for tightening your needle and lifting your plate, a brand new seam ripper. This is something that I like to treat myself to every year. A quilter's tool guide. This is called a multi-purpose tool, which is also your needle inserter. And then we also have your sewing feet here. So you have a buttonhole foot, a number 3 foot, which is your blind hem, and this one has the red little bar on it. Then we have your 2A foot right here, which is your pattern foot, which we'll go over these feet in more detail in a bit. Your 1A foot, which is your pattern foot with the IDT cutout. That means that it has this cutout back here for that IDT built-in walking feature. And then your zipper foot here. And this zipper foot is actually a foot that is commonly misused. It actually snaps on so the floor is readable. So you can snap it on left or the right side, and these are actually away from you because this is opening for your IDT, both on the right side and the left side. A lot of people by default want to do it this way because that makes sense. I will admit, I did that for the first 6 months of owning my machine until I found out that's not how it works. And it does work a whole lot better if you use it the correct way. Okay, and then you have the foot that came on your machine, which is your 0A foot. So now we're going to go back to the machine and we are going to show you how to thread, wind a bobbin, and install it. Alright, here we are zoomed into the top of the Passport. The first thing we need to do is we need to get one of our large spool caps. And this part here that looks kind of like the TP or the top of the spool cap, we're going to install that in with that side going towards the base of the spool pin itself. The next thing I need to do is I do need to grab my large felt, and we are going to also install that in right next to my spool pin, my spool cap. These always will stay on your machine just like this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my thread itself. So I'm going to go ahead and just install my thread. Now, it doesn't really matter on this model which way you put the thread on because of this guide right here. This guide allows your thread just to snap in, therefore your thread can come from either direction. However, I do like to get in the habit of putting my thread in where it's coming under itself and over the top to come off, okay? So it's coming this way off the thread. The reason why I like to do that is I do have one machine in my sewing room that does have to be put on this way. If I'm in that habit, I never forget. The other thing is if you are having trouble with your thread, you're having constant breakage or anything like that, and your thread is 100% cotton or 100% polyester, then try turning the spool around. Sometimes that's all it takes to take care of that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my next spool cap, and I do have 2 more to choose from. I have a small one right here and a large one right here. The small one would actually be inappropriate for this size cap, and the reason why is when I go to install this on, I can see how much smaller this is to this piece here, and when I come in, it's inside my spool itself. Some thread is, when they make these spools, can be rough out here. And the reason why our caps are designed in different sizes is so that we can encourage the thread to go slightly outside our spool and rub actually on our cap instead. And our caps have been made perfectly smooth. And that way it does not catch those rough edges. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. And now you can see how this one's much bigger, and when I install it, it's not too much bigger, but it is more appropriate for this size. So if I had a long skinny one, that would be what would be appropriate for this one here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to hold it, my right hand with one of my threads, my left hand with the other one, and I have this clip right here. I'm sorry, it's trying to focus on my hand. This clip right here. And I'm going to take my thread and I'm just going to, from the front to the back, pop it in, and I heard a little click. The next thing is I'm going to go around this bobbin winder here. This is the guide and the tensioner for my bobbin. You can see how this picks up and splits. That's because I want my thread to go directly inside here. So I'm going to bring my thread directly in there and around. So I'm going to try to zoom that in a bit so you can see that better. So let's see if we can get that a little bit better for you. Okay, so you can see now how this piece here is set up. And now I'm going to bring my thread directly in. I'm going to bring it inside. So actually went in there. I'm going to bring it all the way around. And when I come all the way around, I'm going to hold my other thread here and give this thread a good taut, tight pull. Okay, so that's how you go in there. You make sure that you're in it all the way. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a bobbin, and so I have a bobbin right here, and you'll notice that on your bobbins you have this long dash right here, which is just it's no purpose really, I don't feel, because there's not a hole there, but you have a round hole right here. Okay, so I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to thread it from the inside my bobbin out through that hole. Okay, so let's see if I can focus on it, kind of. I'm sorry, it's hard for it to focus on, probably because it's clear. I'm going to go into that hole and out. Okay, so that my thread is going directly in there. And now I'm going to put it right directly on my bobbin itself. Okay, then I'm going to push my bobbin over. Now oh, actually, we need to turn on our machine, don't we? So I'm going to bring this down here. So let me bring you down just a bit here. And on the right hand side of your machine, you will find, on the right hand side of your machine, I have plugged in the power over here and the foot control. And then there is a up and down switch right here. Push it up to turn on your machine. Your machine will make some noises, and that is correct. Okay, and now what we're going to do is I am going to hold my thread from the top, so my thread's going through the bobbin going up, and I'm going to push this over to the right. And what happens is I have SP on my window. That is for winding my bobbin, and then I'm going to step on my foot control and start to go. Don't let go of this thread. Once we get far enough, we are going to cut it. I don't happen to have scissors right by me, so I'm going to use my seam ripper, and I am going to, we want to actually cut this pretty close. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring it back in here again. So I'm kind of a one-person record and film and do everything right now. So I have my thread come up here, so I'm going to use my scissors or my seam ripper to cut that. I've already gone up and down quite a few times so that I know that it will hold, and I'm just going to step on my foot control and continue going. I can also use my start-stop key if I want to. I'll show you where that is in a bit. I'm not going to fill this up, but if I was to fill it up, as the thread starts to pressure against my little stopper over here, the bobbin will start to hesitate, and that's how I'll know that it is full. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut my thread. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you how to install that bobbin. The first thing we want to do is we want to push this back over to the left and pull the bobbin straight up and off it. Okay, I'm going to reset the camera so you can see better how to put your bobbin in. Okay, so now our machine is on and we're back to our bobbin. I have zoomed in down into the bottom of our machine here where our pressure foot and needle are. When you first get your machine, you usually have something underneath your pressure foot and your pressure foot's down. You have to thread with your pressure foot up. It controls the tension assembly of your machine, and right now, because my pressure foot is down, my tension assembly is closed and it's really hard to get your thread in there. So that's what it has to do with when we thread the top, but it's a good habit to raise it during the whole threading process. So there is a lever in back that I'm going to pull up to pull that up. To open up your bobbin cover here, there's this little black lever right here that I'm going to pull to the right, and it'll pop up so I can pull this out. And it pulls to the left because you do have this flange here that goes directly in here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is your bobbin. Now this style machine is a front loading bobbin, and the front loading drop-in bobbins have to go counterclockwise. So that means when I'm holding my bobbin here, I am going to pull my thread to the left and over the top and to the left, okay, so that I could drop my bobbin directly in. Now you're not done. You still have the bobbin case down here. We have to thread it through the bobbin case. So I'm going to take my thread over here to the right, and you'll see there's an opening right here, okay, where my nail is. So you'll see where this arrow is. It comes right over here. There's an opening. I put my finger on the bobbin. I bring it all the way into that opening. And I can hear and feel a little click, okay? At that point, there is this up arrow up here that takes us around this flange. So I'm going to go around that flange. And down here I have another arrow that has this little piece that's sticking up. I'm going to put my thread there. Now the book will tell you go ahead and cut your thread. I don't like to do that because my tail will get in my way. So I'm going to reinstall my bobbin cover first. So it's going to come in from the right, and I'm going to make sure the flange goes underneath this metal part and pushes straight down. And you'll hear a click. Now I'll take this thread and I'll pull it to the left, and I didn't break it. It actually cut because that last spot I went through is a blade. Okay, so now my bobbin is installed correctly. Now let's show you how to thread the top. Okay, so now we're in here pretty close, and I have my thread still in here from when I wound my bobbin, so I'm just going to take it directly out of here. Okay, so now I have my tail coming over to the left, and I have my thread on the right from the spool. I'm going to take both my tails, and I have a big long like flange back here. I'm going to come in and bring my thread forward in. Then I'm going to come straight down. You'll notice that there is a metal piece here. That is your tension. You could be on the left or the right, does not matter. Just make sure you're going straight into it. Okay, so I'm going to hold my finger on the spool up, the tail up here, and I'm going to go straight into it right there. Okay, then what we're going to do, zoom you out a little bit so you can see the rest of what I'm doing, is now I'm going to come down and around what's called the nose. So around this piece here and come right back up. Then I now have this take-up lever. If you don't see it, you need to take your hand wheel way over here on the side and turn it towards you until this piece comes up all the way. That's called your take-up lever. And we are going to take our thread and we're going to go from right to left and pull it forward. Okay, so I'm going to zoom real close in to show you that really closely here in a second. So I know we have just showed you this, but I unthreaded it to this point so I could show you that your thread needs to come up, and we need to come in, and we're going to go to the right of this and bring your thread around and come forward to the left. And I know my hand gets right in the way of the camera, but basically I went this way and around and forward, and my thread is all the way in that hole. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and bring you out here, and now let's go ahead and elevate you down here. So now what we want to do is we want to show you the needle area. Okay, so this is what's nice about this machine is it does have a built-in needle threader, and so that is what we're going to get ready to do for you next. Okay, so I have my thread and it's coming directly straight down, and I have a guide right here. Okay, so I got to go around that guide on the right side, and I have a guide right here on the left side. Let's go ahead and bring it directly into there on the left side. Okay, now this point is when you can now lower your pressure foot, and my pressure foot's back here, so I can lower it directly down. Okay, and it comes this way. Okay, so there you can see it right there. It comes up like that and down. This is the only time you want your pressure foot down while threading, is when you're getting ready to use your needle threader right here, which is this guy. Okay, so what we're going to do is I am going to come down and forward with it, come all the way down and twist it forward, and I am going to go, there's a hook right here, I'm going to go in under this hook, I'm going to go right in front of my eye of my needle, and I'm going to then pull my threader away and let go of that tail. It's very important, and I'm doing it so slow that it's hard for me to do this for you. So again, we come down and forward. Okay, I go under this hook directly in front of the needle, and when I go to pull away, gotta let go of that tail, put your threader back up, and there'll be a loop back here, and you pull that loop. Okay, I am going to reset this, and we'll rethread the eye again. I'm going to reset this and try to get even closer so you guys can see that better. Sometimes a lot of you guys like to see that close. Alright, so I'm going to show you this again. This is as far as the camera will let me zoom in and stay focused. It's having a really hard time focusing on the eye of the needle. So what we're going to do is we're going to come straight down with the threader, and I'm going to put it all the way towards me, and it's in resting against the needle right here. I'm going to go under this hook right here with my thread, and I'm going to come directly across, and I'm going to put my thread under, I need a third hand, under the brackets right here. Okay, then when I start to pull this away, I pull my threader away, I got to let go of my thread and put my threader up, and then I have this loop back here behind my needle that I'm going to grab and I'm going to pull. I will tell you it does take practice, but once you have it, you'll love it. Okay, so keep practicing with that. And basically the big secret is you come down and come forward, and when you start to pull this back, see how I'm literally pulling it back? That's when you have to let go of your tail you're holding on to and put it away to grab the loop. Okay, so now we are going to raise the pressure foot. I'm going to put my thread underneath, okay, and I will take my fabric that I have here, and I'm just going to raise my pressure foot again. And I do have a 1/4 inch line right here on my plate that if you want to use, you could if you're a quilter or a doll sewer. I'm just going to come in here just to get it set up and put my foot down. And you do not have to pull up your bobbin with this thread. When we put our bobbin in with that extra tail, when we came in here and worked it around and over, that left us a long enough tail that when I start to sew, it will automatically come up. Now, the first time you sew, you'll get a little noise, and I'll show you. That is a good noise. That only happens when you first turn it on. What it's doing is it's called synchronizing. It is getting the needle, the feed dogs, everything back to its standard straight stitch moment. It doesn't know where you turned off the machine. You could have been in the quilting serpentine stitch, you could have been in a buttonhole stitch, or even doing just a zigzag. And the machine needs to, when you first turn it on, get everything centered back to straight stitch. So that's what makes that noise. And then you just sew. Okay, so let me reset the video. Okay, so now that I'm zoomed out, I just want to show you that we're just sewing along here, and you have a key right down here which has like a hook on it. That is your reverse. So if I press it while I'm sewing, my machine will sew backwards now, and if I let go, it will come forward. If I was to stop and press it before I start to sew, it will just go back that one stitch. So you can sometimes use it just to walk backwards, but if I'm sewing, it will go backwards until I release it. A little different, but that's okay. I do like that little, sometimes if I'm putting on binding and stuff, I want one stitch too far, I can just press this and it will take me back a stitch. Really cool. When I'm done with this stitch, I do have an icon right here, which let's get a little bit into this right here so you can see these. It's a pair of scissors, and I can press it and it'll cut my thread so I can pull it directly out and have my seam. Now I went back and forth many times because I was talking about that reverse stitch, but then I have that seam right here. So I'm going to put this back underneath and lower my foot, because now what I'm going to show you is right here we're on 0, 0. This is a 10-digit sewing machine. So what that means is every time you pick a stitch, you have to pick both the 10s and the 1s at the same time. So we'll talk about that again when we start playing with the stitches. But I just want to point that out now, and then I'll point it out again to you later. This one here is normally your width control, and so I see a triangle in the middle and it has an arrow to the left and to the right, and basically what that's indicating is it's the width control of your stitches that go both left and right. Well, straight stitch only feeds forward and with no side needle movement. If it did, it wouldn't be a straight stitch. So in straight stitch, what I could do is I could press this, and every time I press it, my needle down here is moving. So I'm pressing it, so my needle's moving to the right, and it's showing me what position I am in until I'm at the 7mm position. So then it went back to 0, 0 because it's a temporary show. And then it showed me right here that I have a light saying I have altered this from the standard. So when I start to press it again, if I press it once, it'll say where I'm at. See how it showed me real quick and then disappeared? So if I press it again, that's where I'm at, but now I can keep pressing it, and then my needle down here is moving, okay? And it's easier if you try this at the same time with my machine, with your machine with me, so you can see exactly what it's doing. Because I'm focused here, it won't let me focus down here at the same time. Now, I want to show you something that when I changed this, when I got from the 3.8 over to the 3.5, see how it flashed? That's telling me that I'm back to factory default. And the light went out. This is where it is when I first select the stitch and turn it on. That is where this will go, is needle center, and that's 3.5. And if I keep minusing, now I'm moving my needle to the left towards the 7mm placement on the other side, which is 0, 0. 0.0. So this is really fun to play with, especially if you are a quilter and you like a scant 1/4 inch foot. We do have a 1/4 inch foot that you could purchase called the Perfect 1/4 inch foot, and it has a slight oval opening so that you can do needle positions in it to get your perfect 1/4 inch or even a scant 1/4 inch. And so that's one reason why you would use this. Another reason why I would use this is if I take my fabric here And if I was trying to come in here and I wanted to feed as close as I could to this side, I'm going to put my fabric in so I'm just inside the foot. But my needle, I want it to be a little bit closer so I get a real nice top stitching on here. So then I'm going to move my needle to the right as far as I want until I get right on that edge. And that way I can sew. Now I'll show you how close I got to that edge here, so that I get really close to that edge right here. Okay, so that's really nice. That's great for garment sewers. So if you're trying to reattach a pocket, or if you're trying to do a nice fine top stitching, your lining to your garment, you get really fine tune and close with this. So that's some again reasons why you would do that. So now what I do is I'm going to zoom you back out here so you can see my front again. I actually don't think I zoomed you out. I think I moved you down. So now what we have here, so I'm going to just take this back until I'm at the 3.5, or I know it's stitch 0, 0. If I come over here and type 0, 0, I will come back to default. Any changes I have made for my straight stitch, it will just get rid of it. Right here is my stitch length. So if I press this, it shows me it's at 2.5 by default. 2.5 is standard. So if I want it a little bit longer, I can just plus it up till I get it longer. So if you want a basting stitch, or if you want to do gathering or anything else like that, you could make it longer. Or for us quilters out there as well, we like to sometimes do foundation piecing or paper piecing, and that means we're going to have to bring this down to like a 2. I want to go much smaller than a 2 because getting a seam ripper to fit in that stitch length is pretty short. And again, it shows me the light to say I have altered this. So if I press it once, it'll say that's where I'm at. It didn't change it. So I would have to press it once and press it again to start changing it. Okay. The next thing I have is I do have needle down. So what that needle down does for you is a couple different things. There's a couple different things you could do with the needle down. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this down right here. And if I was to sew along, and I want my needle will always stop in the up position. So if I want my needle to sink down so I can pivot, I would just press the needle down and it will activate it so that I can turn and pivot. Okay. Now by using my needle down key, it will always stop in that down position every time I stop. Okay. So that is a nice thing about the needle down part. But let's say I'm going to take it off by pressing it again and my needle came back up. But let's say I'm sewing along and I just want a temporary needle down, or I can't let go of my project. If I tap my foot control, my needle will go down and then I can pivot. And so now when I stop, it'll stop up because it was a one-time needle down. And again, I just gave a tap as a quick tap. So not so quick that you're not giving it the command, but not so long that you're sewing. Okay, it takes a little practice, but you could tap it to come up and you could tap it to go down. And you can actually walk this with your foot control by tapping it over and over again, which is really cool. The next thing that I have on here is the tie off. So if I'm sewing along and I want to end this, I want to end it cleanly. If I press this, it will just do a 1 stitch in position tie off, meaning it's going to stay within 1 stitch. So it'll come back, forward, forward, or back, forward, back. No, forward, back, forward. That's what it is. Forward, back, forward. And then that is now secure. And then I can use my scissors to cut and pull this out. And my scissors are, this is actually my machine, so my scissors are a little dirty, and so it's cutting my thread, but it's hanging on to it because I have it linty in there. So let's say you were having that problem too. Let me show you how we clean our cutter. That's a good thing to know. So I'm going to zoom right into this area here. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to take off my bobbin cover. I'm going to take out my bobbin. I am going to take my screwdriver and I am going to take this here and I'm going to come over here and take this here. Okay, and I'm going to then, I'm just twirling these with my fingers because it's just a little bit faster to get those off. And then we are going to just try and do this where I'm not in my way. I'm going to lift this plate directly up. Okay, and come on. Your pressure foot also, see, I'm having a hard time getting this out because it's now caught between my foot and my feed dogs. Well, my pressure foot lifter, which is right here and up, I could press it up again and hold it, and now I could clear it through here. And it's really over here that you got to clean. So if I was to use my put my pressure foot down and use my cutter. I can see where that cutter actuates. And actually it looks pretty clean, so you would want to keep this all clean of lint right here, and then also keep all your feed dogs and stuff free of lint. And you can do that with using either Q-tips with no moisture, or you can use pipe cleaner, okay, to get this all clean in here. You do need to bring your machine in periodically for a professional cleaning though, because you can't get everything in here. And in a professional cleaning, we're going to actually open it completely up and get everything out and re-grease and re-oil and do all your fine-tune adjustments that happen from everyday use. Okay, so then you can do that to clean in here and make sure everything's free of lint. Then we need to put this back in, so this just comes directly in, and you just let it seat in until it falls into place. Okay, and then I'm going to put these 2 screws back in, and again I'm going to just do a finger twist on them just to get them going here. So I'm twisting that one and I'm twisting that one, and then when I get it close enough, I then will tighten it with a screwdriver, but don't crank it down, okay? We don't need it that tight. We need it just a little bit of pressure. I didn't need that. I'm not left-handed, so I don't know why I was doing that left-handed. But you just need a little bit of pressure so it holds the plate down. And then we've got to reinstall, making sure the bobbin's going counterclockwise, and bring it into the loop here, up above, and down below again. Okay? And so probably the act of me taking off my plate, well, whatever was in there probably just came out. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to show you how to select your stitches. Okay, so we're going to come directly over here on your machine, and you have this little wing here that says PFAFF, and you can pull it directly out. And it shows you here that you have on this particular PFAFF 100 stitches. Okay, now I know that it says 99 down here, but remember your first stitch is 0, 0. Okay, so you really have 100 stitches. Now how this works is they are broken up into 3 categories, and so this first one's your utility, this next one is quilting, and this last one is decorative. Okay, so if I wanted to do one of my favorite stitches is number 40, which is the lazy ease. I just love this one. Okay, so I see the picture of the stitch, and the number 40 is listed right below it, so that's how I know it's 40. Now I'm going to come over to my machine here, and that means I'm going to type in, and this is what I meant by 10 digits. It needs to be 40 for 40. Okay, so if I wanted to go back to stitch 4, let's say I want to do stitch 4, I can't just type 4 because it's waiting and it won't sew. It's not happy. Okay, so I always have to put in 2 digits. So if I wanted 4, it'd be 0, 4. Okay, but I want 40, so it'd be 4, 0. So you always have to do 2 digits. Okay, I think you got that. All right, so the next thing I can do is I'm going to come here and I am going to grab, well, I want to know what foot to use. That's where I was going to go with this, what foot to use. I had shown you your different feet, and the machine will help you know what foot you should be using by pressing I. So if I press the I, it says 1A. Well, my 0 foot is the one that's on. So if I look right here, this one is my 0 foot, and it does say 0 right here and A. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my 1A. Now the reason why it wants the 1A is if I turn it back, it has a slight concaving underneath. Okay, whereas the 0 foot did not. The 0 foot was flat underneath, did not have any indentation, where this one has an indentation. This is so you could use a little bit thicker thread, or you can use it on a thicker fabric, and the decorative stitch is going to have room to go through the foot. Okay, so if we use the improper foot, the stitch may not it may not actually form correctly. It might distort, and that would be a problem. Okay, we would not like that. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to come down here. I'm going to show you how to change this foot. If you just put your fingers on the front toes and just put a little pressure on it, it will fall off. Okay, and then go ahead and move it to the side. Now we're going to take your new one here with the 1 on the left and an A on the right, so it's readable. The plastic, clear plastic, so we can see through our foot, is in the front. Okay, and our walking foot cutouts in the back. And we go underneath, and this is a claw right here. Okay, so we're going to go underneath, and you could do this one of 2 ways. You can either lower your pressure foot down onto it so it grabs and come up, or you could take your foot and bring it up to the claw and push up. either way, whichever way you feel more comfortable, okay? Now, as to the IDT, I want to show you how to install that. So let me turn the machine here. Now, here is my IDT right in the back. IDT stands for Independent Dual Transfer, okay? This is what is geared in time to your feed dogs inside the machine. So when your feed dogs go forward, it goes forward. When your feed dogs go backwards, it goes backwards. So better than attachment is actually geared in time to do the exact same movement and length as your feed dogs, giving you more precise feeding. So right now this is disengaged, it's up, it's not down, and so when I want it down, I just put my finger on the back here, okay, and I just bring it down, okay? So I did kind of pull it a little bit. You can just push it down as well. Sometimes I like to two-finger it too and just bring it down until it all goes in. To disengage it, I put my fingers on either side, and I'm going to pull it down and away to disengage it. When would I not want it engaged? Well, if you're using a foot that doesn't allow you to use it, like the 2A foot, your satin pattern foot does not have the cutout in the back for that. So it will not work properly if you try to have that engaged with this. You're not supposed to be able to, but I have seen some people successfully fight their way on with it. The other thing is if you're trying to ease a seam, trying to ease in a sleeve into a shirt, or trying to ease in a stitch on a block in your quilt, and you're doing a little fine-tuned stretching trying to get our two fabrics to feed together. This will not allow you to do that if it's engaged. Its job is to feed the top and the bottom together. So easing is not really possible, so you would need to disengage this. Okay? So let me get reset up and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so now I've reset so you guys can see this better. And so I've selected stitch 40, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to sew. This one feeds in the forward and the back position. So I love this stitch. I use it a lot on my quilts, and you can really change it up with changing your stitch width and length. And so what I'm going to do is, if I press the scissors while it's sewing, it's going to then tie off and cut for me automatically, so I can pull this out. And here it is. There is the one I did right there. Now, that is the default of it. My favorite is to lengthen it. So I like to come up to my length, which is the second set of numbers. And I'm going to bring it, right now my length is 2.3, and I'm going to bring it up to a 3. And now we're going to show you what this looks like again. So by lengthening it, it actually, to me, makes it a little bit more rounder. And I just like that look. Okay, so I'm going to press those scissors again, and when it gets to the end, and I think I forgot to tell you that, when it gets to the end, it ties off and cuts. So I got to the end of it here. Okay. And see, look how much rounder that is versus that's the default versus there's the rounder. I always use it at this setting. So that was stitch 40 with a stitch length of 3.0. Now I've also done this where I've done mini quilts, and I've had a 1/4 inch finished size border. I know, insane, but I wanted to do it. So I'm going to bring this down to the lowest it will go in both width and length. So the top one was my width, and my bottom one was my length. And I just brought them down all the way until it beeps at me. That tells you I'm at the lowest I can go. And now we're going to do this again. And this is really, really tiny. Now keep in mind, I did this in a 1/4 inch finished border on a mini quilt. The other thing is, I'm going a little slow here, not on purpose. I just realized that my speed control is down. So I can speed this up right here by pushing this glider more up, okay? So the idea of a lot of this is, if you take any of your stitches and you take it to the absolute smallest width and length, you can actually use these for miniatures and doll clothes and stuff. And see, I know that's really, really tiny, but then I started there and said, okay, well that is more like this first one, but let's say I want to lengthen it some more. Well, then I'm going to come here and just give it a little bit more length, and then I'll try it again. And so you really do have 100 stitches, but with you playing with them, you can really get some really nice other looks as well. So it almost makes it, I know it's just altering the 100 you have, but sometimes it can really make them look different. Okay, and see, now that's how I like it, and that's exactly how I did it on my mini Okay, so same stitch, that was the original, and how it can change as you play with it. The next thing we are going to do is, so again, how you get your stitches. If you want to come over here and pull this out, and you can select all your stitches here. The next thing I want to make sure we do is I want to do a buttonhole. So a buttonhole, we have them 16 through 19, and they are different ones. They do talk about them in the book. We are just going to do the standard number 16. Okay, so that means I need to select my stitch, which is 1, 6 for 16. Okay, and if I press I, it says I need 5B. That was a B. I know it doesn't look like a B. That's this guy here, and it says it right. This is where the metal clamp is. That's where it hooks to your machine. It's imprinted into the foot, 5B. Okay, so now I'm going to take my foot right here. And we're going to get a little bit more personal with this again. And I'm going to take my sewing foot and I'm going to take it off again. So to take it off, I need to just press directly down on the toes to take this one off. Now, I do have my IDT off, but if it was down, I need to pull it down in a way to get it off because there is no cutout for this. Now, what's fantastic about this is you do not have to know the size of your buttons for this machine. You can literally have a jar of buttons, just like I have right here. So I'm going to just reach in here and I am going to grab one out. Okay? And so I grabbed a button. Now what we're going to do is on the top right here, I'm going to grab the most farthest part up here and I'm going to just pull it up. Okay, if your nail is not as strong as mine, you can grab right here, okay, and push up there as well. The button goes up here in the back of the foot, and I'm going to pinch this down and bring it in to lock that in. It's easier to do it now before it's on the machine. Now what I do is I'm going to grab my tail of my thread on the top and make sure it's forward so I don't get this caught in the foot. And this is going to come directly under, okay. So what I'm going to do is where I have this opening guide right here, I'm going to go directly under in between the ankle, and I'm going to bring my ankle up until the ankle's right above the bar, and I'm going to pull it up. Okay, now I have my needle threader here, but behind my needle threader I have a buttonhole lever right here, and I'm going to bring it down. And I'm going to pause for a moment. So we pulled this buttonhole lever down, so again it's located right behind your needle threader. And something I like to do is I like to have my top thread underneath my buttonhole foot. So I'm going to just take my fabric, I'm going to put it underneath, and I'm going to lower the press foot. I am then going to come up here and press my needle down and press it again, make my needle come back up again. I'll raise my pressure foot and I'll pull this fabric to the side, and it didn't do it. Let's try that again. Needle down, needle up. And then there you go. When I start to pull it from the side, I can then grab that tail and get that tail under my pressure foot. Now I do have on the side of the machine, right here, there is a round disc that I can use to cut my thread. Okay? All right. So I want to make sure I'm at the beginning of number 16. So again, I'm going to just reselect it because I took a couple stitches at 16. And then I'm going to get just another piece of fabric here because I can. Okay. And I'm going to just put my fabric underneath. Now, this is going to sew away from me. So if I have, a lot of times when you make your mark of where you want your buttonhole to go, you'd have a capital I. I'm going to start here at the bottom and go away from me and come back, okay? So what I would do is I would get the bottom of that I actually inside this part of the foot. So let's see if it will allow me to zoom into that. May not allow us to focus. So see that hole right here? That's where I am going to put the bottom part of my eye in. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I have on my machine here, this was my very first key I've been using, and right here is my start stop. I'm just going to press my start and let it go. So it's going to do a zigzag backwards, and then it will do a zigzag forward, little bar tack, I'm sorry, straight stitch forward, bar tack, zigzag backwards, bar tack, and tie off. Okay, then if I want to use my scissors, I can just press my scissors to cut, and now I have my buttonhole. okay? It's outside my eye because I just drew a random eye that's not matching my actual size of my button. This fits the button I put into my foot. But let's say I want this to be more satiny. I can do that. So by coming up here, remember this is my stitch length. If I press it, it says I'm at a 0.4. So if I press it again, oops, that was needle down, needle up. Pay attention to what I'm pressing right here. Sorry, if I press it again, I'm going to bring it down to a 0.3 or even a 0.2. That is making my stitches tighter together, making it more solid, more satiny. Okay, it's called density is what I'm changing. Okay, so I'm going to put this back underneath again. I am going to lower that pressure foot so that I have this going, and I'm going to press the start key again. Now, if this is going too fast for me, I can use my speed control over here, and I can pull this down a little bit, and it will slow it down if I don't like the speed of how it's going. And now, when it's done, I will then use my scissors. And then there we go. And now this one is much more dense than that one, but they are the same size. Just I started this one a little bit lower. But that's how you do buttonholes. Really easy. How about sewing a button by machine? Let me get reset to do that, and I will be right back because I need to get something to show you. All right, to do this, I now need to push this lever directly up. And to take this foot off, I have to put my hand on the back and on the front, and it is a bigger push to get this off, okay? So that is a little bit different than the other ones, and that's just because of how long this is. Now, I am going to take the button out of the back here, okay? And then if I come over to my stitches over here, I can see by looking at these that all my buttonholes are here. Right here, number 20 is my sew on a button. That's why it looks like a button. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I am now going to bring this in, and I'm going to type in, oops, 20. Sorry, ignore that, I did that. Type in 20. And now, PFAFF does have a button, sew on a button foot. You do not have to have it, but this helps get your hands out of the way. Okay, so what we would do is we take the buttonhole, it's the button itself, and I would actually slide it. See this flange right here? Actually pulls down. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to slide this directly in, just like that, okay? So that I have that directly in there. Okay, now this plastic piece here actually can push forward or pull back, and I'm going to have it pulled back because that is in case you want to have lift to this, if you need a shank, like a thread shank. So basically, that's what this instructions are showing you on the back of the actual foot that package that comes with. Now if I have it forward here, it will actually do the thread on top of that shank, and so I have lift to my button. So if you're doing this on a wool jacket or a puffy jacket, you need more room for the fabric to go in. Well, I'm just going to do this on a flat, like a dress shirt or something, so I want the button more flat. Okay, this is also letting me know I need to lower my feed dogs. Let's show you that. So I'm going to turn this around, reset up right here. So on the back side of this, if I take off my free arm, which is this tray, and it comes directly out, I have a lever right here. And right now it's facing it from the back is all the way to my right. Of course, if I was facing the other way, it'd be left. But now I'm going to flip it over, and I heard a thump because now if I look, my feed dogs are down. Okay, so that's just to show you I never turn it to do that. I do it by feel. Okay, so now let's go ahead and turn you over. Okay, and put this free arm back on. Now this free arm is really nice. It has storage in the front and has storage in the back, and it just pulls directly off. So plenty of storage on this little guy here. Okay, and now I am going to come in here with my foot on, and I'm going to attach this. So let's get you zoomed really far in here. And into where I'm going. I'm sure you're thinking, oh no, you're getting out of the screen, Charlene. It's okay, I'll bring it back. So here's the foot, and I have this bar right here. It rests on the front of the ankle. So I'm going to go underneath, and I'm just going to push that directly up. Now I need to make sure that my button is in there and straight. I'm going to put my fabric right where I want it, underneath. And the first thing I'm going to do is lower my pressure foot, and I'm going to take my hand wheel turned towards me, and I'm going to turn it once and twice to make sure my needle misses on the left and the right. And then I'm going to sew. That's it. I'm going to take this off, and my button's on there. Isn't that awesome? I mean, you'll never sew them by hand again. That won't come off. Okay? Totally cool. Most buttons when you get it are the same width between buttonholes. If your holes are not hitting correct and you have your lines straight, that means you need to come up here and start playing with your width, making either wider or shorter. But most buttons out there holes are 4 millimeters apart, and that's why I did not have to adjust this. That is the standard of buttonholes, buttons, okay? All right, so we're going to pause right there, and then when we come back, we'll do a blind hem. All right, I have now taken off the sew on a button foot, and it was kind of hard to get off. You do have to push it down really hard, and it's just because of the design of the foot. They don't want it to rock at all. So that, again, that was an optional foot that did not come with the machine. But now that I've taken that off and put it away, I do need to raise my feed dog. So I'm just going to take this off. Now I had showed you earlier. So now if you're facing it, you should be able to feel the lever back here. You're going to pull it to the left this way, and then that will make your feed dogs engage. However, you will not see them engage. You actually have to turn your hand wheel full rotation towards you, and then your feed dogs come up. It's a mechanical movement. That's why you have to do that. So go ahead and do that. And next thing I told you I would show you for today is how to do a blind hem. This is to hem your skirts, to do a little girl's dress, slacks, those kind of things. And you can do it by hand, but you have a fantastic machine that will do it for you and make it a lot faster. It does show you in the book how to fold this, but I'm going to go over it real quick with you. So I'm just going to push my machine forward, and I'm going to put my fabric down so you can see it. Okay, so I just have a piece of white fabric to show you how to do this, and I'm going to put the pretty side down, or if I was in a garment, turn it inside out. Now when you do a hem, a lot of times they do tell you a desired length to hem it up, which usually is about an inch, inch and a half. So I'm going about an inch and a half right here. I'm just going to do a finger press. So I can see the right side of my fabric right now, and this is the wrong side because, again, I have it inside out, and when I fold it up, I can see that. Now, what you have to do is you have to make an area for you to stitch on, because we want, every time we stitch and do what's called the bite, it's going to show on the front of our garment or our project. And it's going to show very little, and then the continuing stitch will show on the back. To do that, I'm going to take this fold, and I'm going to pinch and put it under. So this was my raw edge, okay? So let me show you that again. So my fold is staying the same. I'm going to pinch this up and fold it under. And now I have this new fold here. Here is my original fold. Right there. There's my original fold, okay? What I'm trying to do, I'm just going to turn this for convenience. It's what I'm trying to do is I am going to, when I do my blind hem, it's going to do a straight stitch here, and it's going to come out and do what's called the bite, which it kind of zigs in and zags out, and that bite is what will show on the front. Well, I have found in a really old 1940s sewing manual that they gave one extra step we don't see much anymore, and I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's normally what you do is when you do this, you have this raw edge here, and you have to come back and take care of it later with the zigzag, or you take care of it first if you have a serger, but I like having one pass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this raw edge here, and I am just going to tuck it under this fold. And I'm going to still have it sticking out because I still have to have a place for my machine to stitch, but I'm just going to tuck that underneath. Okay, so just show you that one more time. This is the way that we had it pressed, okay, that my hem, and I've tucked it under, okay. And then if you need to, you can push this in and out as far as you want, as long as you don't change that fold, your hem fold. And then I'm going to just come in one more time, and I'm just going to tuck this underneath. And I do, again, want it sticking out because my machine still needs somewhere to stitch. So it's going to stitch out here, the straight stitch, and then do the bite in and out. Okay? So the foot that we're going to use for that, and I would use straight pins to help you. This is small enough for me to handle, so I'm just pressing it by hand because it's just small enough for me to handle, but straight pins do really help you. Just remember, don't sew over them. This is the foot we're going to use. It's your number 3 foot, and it's the one with the red bar here, and it has the IDT cut out. So when I turn the screw right here, so I'm turning it this way, my red bar is moving to the right. If I turn it up, so I'm now going that way, I'm pushing it up, my red bar now moves to the left. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to find the appropriate stitch. So I'm going to put this aside, pull my machine forward, and let's go to our stitch panel and find that appropriate stitch. So the appropriate stitch for this is actually up in your utility stitches here, and it is actually number 10 is the one we're going to use, number 10 right there. Okay, so try and get this little focus in there. So it's actually number 10. Okay, so now I'm going to come over to my machine here, and I do need to make sure that I type that in because I'm still on my sew on a button. So 10 for 10. I'm just going to close that out. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to show you this stitch real quick. Okay, I'm going to just do it on my little test sample that we've been working with earlier so that I can show you this. So I am going to install my foot. Again, get my thread out of my way. I'm going to move it forward, bring my foot underneath, and I'm going to snap it. Snap it up. It really is easy to snap up. I'm sharing my sewing area with a camera, so my hands are not going where they normally go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get just my plain piece of fabric so I can show you how this stitches. And what it's going to do is it's just going to do a straight stitch and a bite, straight stitch and a bite. Okay, so that is what it is. Come on. Ah. Get my tails out of your way. Not working for me today. Okay, so that is what it's going to look like, okay? Right here. Focus, camera. Okay, my camera's not liking this, but it's a straight stitch and a bite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reselect stitch 10, and what I'm going to do is I am going to turn my hand wheel one full rotation towards me, and then my needle is going to pop over to the left. That is going to tell me where I need to line this up at. So I'm going to get my fabric back here, get it refolded the way I need, and I'm going to put it in so that it's under my needle, but my fold right on top here is just resting up to the left of this guide. So it's snugged right on in there, okay? So it's up and to the left of that guide, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my needle down, and I'm going to see how much of this it bites. I'm going to see if I can get this closer for you, so just a second. That is a little bit better for you, but I do realize it is still hard for you to see. So I am going to try to get my seam ripper here so I can point to you that my needle is striking about here, and it's about an 1/8 inch in from my my fold, and that is too much, because keep in mind when you're doing a blind hem, when we open it, however much your bite is, it's going to be double the size when you open the fold. So I'm going to raise my pressure foot, and again I am going to twist this up to push my guide more this way, so more out, so I can come here and push this out more. Okay, and I'm going to put my foot back down, keeping that fold in mind. Oh, my needle's in it. I can't move if my needle's in it. Okay, and I'm going to put that back down. Again, I'm right up to my fold. I'm going to sink my needle back down, and now I'm just really right on that crease. Okay, so I really want to be close to that crease, catching a thread or two of the fabric the best I can. Go a little deeper if it's your first time doing this, because you do need to make sure you learn how to sew as straight as you can with this foot so that your tacks look nice and even. I'm going to reset the camera back onto its holder because I'm free holding it right now. That's why it's shaking, and then I'll show you how we sew this. All right, so I'm back now. So I've just put the camera back on its stand, and What my job is now is where this folded fabric is right here, this fold, again, I'm going to watch and make sure it's laying right up to the left side of the guide. That's my only job. Don't watch your needle. I promise your needle is going to go up and down and zag when it's supposed to. Because when we tend to watch our needle, we tend to push our fabric to one side or another because we're not going to sew straight. So to make sure we're sewing straight, we follow the fold to the upper fold, the fold on top to your guide. And so let's try this. And again, keep that nice and caught right where you need it to be. And we're going to go all the way down. Then I'm going to use my scissors at the end here. So I tie off and cut. Okay, so this is what it looked like. Okay, let me get the machine back so we'll try to focus on this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I am going to open it up. Now I did mine in purple, so it's going to be really screaming that you can see the tacks, and that's okay because I wanted you to see what we did. So there are the tacks, and again, that's what it looked like before I opened it. So still learning this camera. So there we go. Now if this was white, they would blend right in. Down here though, which is where I started, they are nice and tiny. That's actually where I want them to be. And with a little bit more practice, we can get it more straight, but I'm pretty good there. I would, if I did that, matching it to white thread, I'd keep it. And then see, it's all finished on the inside. You'd go take it to the iron and give it a really good press, and your skirt, slacks, whatever you were wanting to hem that you normally would tack by hand is done. Okay? So that was just to get you started. Go ahead and play. Write down all your questions. Feel free to reach out to us. You can always come in and ask us in the store or give us a call and look for more videos. Thank you.